Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Reality Rights. I am author Ellie Alexander, and I'm here with
I am the tech guy.
the tech guy. And we do a podcast where we talk about pretty much anything that falls under the scope of writing and the reality of that, yeah?
Yeah, everything that goes into it, everything it does to our relationship. For our relationship.
For our relationship.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, we cover it all.
We
And
cover
then
it all.
some.
We cover it all.
And-
Well, this week we're going to be sending some love out to bookstores. This is
Hell
bookstore
yeah.
love. So it's
Yeah.
fitting, darlings. I'm giving him a little, heart finger. It's fitting
You
because I
giving me
feel
the
like
finger?
no, a heart finger.
Okay.
I think it's fitting because we both love and always have loved bookstores. In fact, early on when we were dating, one of our favorite date nights was to go to Borders. Back when
Yes.
Borders existed.
Yeah. Yep.
We'd get a late night coffee. I loved their snickerdoodle cookie.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
we'd just wander the bookstore for hours.
Or like a Saturday, we'd head down to Powell's in Portland.
Mhm.
I don't know if Powell's is on our list that we're going to talk about, but
Oh, we should, yeah.
Let's add that to the list.
For sure. Yeah. Well, we'll start right now with Powell's. Like, yes,
Okay.
that was
All
like
right.
the quinta, because we lived in Portland. Like,
Yeah.
we just thought that was normal to have a bookstore like Powell's. And then we're like, oh, wait.
Yeah, for those out there, the darlings listening that don't know, Powell's City of Books in Portland is a massive, massive bookstore. It is an entire city block, square block of the city of Portland, multiple floors, and it is just like you get lost for hours. And we would do that like Saturday mornings, go for a walk, then we go down to Powell's and we'd go grab a coffee,
Yeah.
kiss each other goodbye, and
Yeah.
see you in a couple hours because that was it. Wait, like I'd go, yeah, I mean, you knew where you could always find me in the
Yeah,
sci-fi
same.
fantasy section, and I knew where I could find you. But it was just, you could just wander it forever and just so much cool stuff. And it's still there today.
It's still there today. And so many great used books, too. Like,
Yeah.
it was a mix, new books, used books, events. I heard so many authors talk there long before I was writing myself. This was also in our early days. This was long before cell phones too. So we really would get lost from each
Yeah.
other for hours. Like we weren't like
Right.
in the same section, maybe in the
Right.
same floor.
Yeah, it was, yeah, we
figured
could
it
be
out.
one aisle over and not know it, but
Yeah,
yeah,
you
they,
wouldn't
lost in the stacks. That could be a
Lost
good,
in the
it's a book idea. There you go.
So romantic. Yeah, so I thought it would be really fun to talk about the independent bookstores who have really like helped make my career what it is today. Like without them, I don't know that I would have the same level of readership because they helped connect me to so many readers early on. We've had such incredible experiences getting to travel to bookstores. And I thought we could share some of our favorite memories of trips over the years. And I have to start with vintage books because uh, when my very first series came out, the Pacific Northwest Mysteries, blah blah blah, the very first book was coming out, and because of just us and who we are, I said to you, like, I don't want to just have a bookstore signing. I want to bring readers into Meg's world. So I want to do an event that has like beer tasting and pink cupcakes and like, all of the fun, like little pink charms and things that she would have. And so I reached out to a local restaurant that was also, it had this great big outdoor patio and they served coffee and beer. So it was perfect. It was all the Meg things. And then I tried to figure out, like, how are we going to get books there? Because readers might not know this, but if you are published by a traditional publishing house, you contractually cannot sell your own books. So, like, we couldn't just buy books ourselves and show up and sell them there. You have to have a bookseller to sell for you. Well, I made a ton of calls and everyone was like, we don't know who you are. Like, no, we're not going
Right.
to show up. We're not going to order books and
Okay, new author, whatever. Yeah.
Uh, but vintage books, and this is actually thanks to my publicist at Kensington at the time. My publicist reached out to Vintage Books on my behalf and said, hey, is there any chance you would come be the bookseller there? And they said yes. And they came, and immediately, like, we were just the best of bookish friends. And then over the years, especially while we were living in the Portland and Vancouver area, we went on tons of adventures together. Vintage Books would say yes to anywhere that I
Oh
went. Like,
yeah. I
we ended
mean,
up at a lingerie shop one night for this, like, opening.
oh, that
And
was like a first Thursday thing,
right?
right? Yeah,
For
yeah.
the
I
first
remember that.
Thursday,
Yeah.
Pepper, who is a dear friend and one of the Vintage's long employees and booksellers, she's like, "What are we doing here? But this is the best night of my life." Like,
Yeah.
yes, of course, we're gonna sell
Totally.
books at a
Selling
lingerie
cozy
shop.
mysteries and lingerie. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what, like, really got it started.
Yeah. And they've been, I mean, supportive is such an understatement,
Yeah,
for what they've done for you, for us over the years. And actually, one thing that you didn't mention at the beginning when you were talking about bookshops and just what they've done for you and everything is we've learned a lot from
yeah,
the independent bookstore owners, like
yeah.
learned a lot about the publishing industry, about book marketing, and just a lot of things. And so they've been like so generous in sharing their knowledge and experience and everything. It's just been like, I it's safe to say that we would not be where we're at today with the Ellie Alexander writing empire without the independent bookshops.
No chance. No, there's no way. Yeah, and you're right. So much partnership and collaboration over the years, learning, especially early on, learning how bookstores purchase books and why they
Hmm.
purchase what they purchase, and then, like, the back end of how books end up getting reviewed or on bestseller lists. Or I remember when I got the Sloan series and it was coming out in hardcover, Becky, who owns Vintage Books, was like, "Oh my gosh, this is a major breakthrough for you. This is like a shift in your career." And I was like, "Why? I don't think it matters." And she's like, "Oh no, there's a whole different level with hardcover because then a lot of libraries purchase hardcovers." And that was
Yeah.
all information that we learned from, yeah, our book selling friends. I never learned that from the publishing house even.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, not. I would never have thought of that, but that's why you see more hardcovers at libraries than paperbacks because they're more durable.
They
They
hold up.
last longer.
Yeah.
Because people probably. I mean, most people probably
Darlings.
don't know this. Most darlings
Yeah.
probably don't know this.
No, I
The
don't.
libraries pay more for each book
They
than
do.
you do as
Yes.
readers, like a lot
Correct.
more, a lot
Hmm.
more, because they buy fewer copies, and
Yeah.
then in theory, hundreds, maybe more people check the book out. So they pay more up front. So it is good when they get books that last a long time because libraries don't always have a lot of money, and they should. They should have more. But
We should do another podcast just about library love.
yeah.
This is bookstore love, but we'll have to do a library
Oh
love because
yeah, yeah,
libraries gave me my start. Like, I wouldn't be a
yeah.
writer today if it were not for my local Vancouver Public Library.
Well, we know so
Guaranteed.
many librarians too. So
Yes,
now, yeah, it would
I
be. Yeah,
know.
that'd be a good episode. Yeah.
Well, and since this theme is love, like, I do think it's fascinating and not at all surprising, but like we've built like real friendships over the years with booksellers and librarians because they're book people. And I know we're
Totally.
biased, but book people are the best. Yes,
Yeah. Well, and some of them are beer people too. So I kind of
that's
got the
true.
double whammy with a few of them. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So early on in my career, we had our very first event, and Drew Carney from KGW came out to cover it. I was like, I think I can get some press. And it just turned out to be the most wonderful night of my life. My kindergarten teacher came, my fifth grade teacher, some of my high school teachers. Like, it was just this book love fest, and it would not have happened without Vintage. And so then I really, like, went on this mission to say yes to any offer that I got to come do any sort of bookstore event, which sometimes was a great success in terms of connecting with readers, and sometimes one reader would show up, but that was okay because then I got to meet booksellers, and I think we logged, I think it was, I might be wrong about this, but I feel like at some point in time, and I know I have this in a note somewhere, I think that first year we logged like 25,000 miles on the Subaru.
We did. Yeah.
Yeah, was it
On our
25?
first Subaru, it was
Yeah,
25,000 miles we drove that year for just for book events.
just for book events. Yeah,
Yeah.
we went everywhere in the Pacific Northwest,
And
and
California.
and
We went
California.
down to, yeah.
Yeah, because that was the radius that we could afford.
Right.
Because that's another thing that I think is a misconception, that authors get paid to go to bookstores, and every once in a while that happens. And I'll talk about a few, of those that have happened over the years as my career grew. But 99% of the time, the author is paying their way to go to a bookstore signing, which is great
Yeah.
because again, the bookstores are taking the risk of purchasing the books and inviting you into the store, but it's not usually that your publishing house is paying for you to go do this.
Right. One thing that we should mention, because you just mentioned that bookstores take a risk with ordering the books,
Yeah,
that the darlings might not know that bookstores can return books
they can.
if they don't sell. However, if
Hmm.
a bookstore invites an author and has that author sign all of those copies now belong to the bookstore. They can't be returned. So once they've been signed, and that is a testament to the relationships that you've built, because there's not a bookstore that we go to anymore where they don't have you sign all the stock,
Right. Yeah.
and that includes a couple branches of Barnes and Noble, which
Yeah.
was a lot of copies of stock. We've got your social media. There's one picture I remember where you must have signed well over 200 copies of your books, and that was so amazing to see. Just they were like, yeah, we're going to sell these, of course, sign them all.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing. Like booksellers, they hand sell so many books. That there's such truth to that. If somebody
Yeah.
comes in and says, "Hey, I'm in the mood for a cozy mystery that's, got like a little touch of baking and it's set in the Northwest," they're going to be like, "I have the series for you."
Right.
Um, yes, they can return copies that are not signed, like you said, and this is one of the reasons that sometimes it's difficult for independently published authors to get copies into bookstores, because bookstores cannot return those copies. So they have to sell on commission, which is just a totally different,
It's a different
um,
model.
it's a
It's a
different model. It's a different
different model.
revenue
Yeah.
stream. And independent bookstores will often do that, but it's not a guarantee. So
Right.
that's the difference. Yeah. Okay, so we have to talk about some of like the highlights. One of the things that sticks in my mind is we went to Sun River Books many
I know
times,
what
and
you're
I
going
have
to talk
two
about.
stories that I
Yeah.
have to share about this, but I want you to share the first because you are our snow driver, and we went when it must have been On Thin Icing came out, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, because this was a while ago. Yeah.
It was late December,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Sun River is in the high desert. And we said, yes, of course we want to go because it's an excuse to get to go to Sun River for a long weekend. And we had the most epic snowstorm ever.
Yeah, well, so it's important to set it up. This
Yeah,
was scheduled months in advance,
months in advance. Yes.
and as you'll get into, Dion and is it Rich
Yeah. Yep.
at Sun River Books, they wonderful people, so supportive, and again, just like it's just been an amazing help over the years. And Sun River, for those who don't know, is a little community of in kind of the forest. It's
Yeah.
in the high desert. It's a community. It's got, there's golf course there. There's hundreds of miles of bike trails. There's a big aquatic center with pool and everything. It's just kind of a vacation destination. Although there are a lot of people that do live there full time, and
Right.
a small community. I shouldn't say a lot of people, but anyway, Sun River Books is in the main shopping restaurant complex within Sun River, so months ahead of time, you'd set up a sign-in for new release, and the weekend that we were supposed to go out, that Friday night, it wasn't just snow, it was ice,
Ice
and
on top of
that
snow.
was the
Yeah.
yeah. So it snowed, and then there was just the Columbia Gorge, when the east winds blow, the temp in from Portland out to Mount Hood just drops, like it just bottoms out. And so if there's any moisture in the air, it freezes solid. And it was icy, and you didn't want to go. You were like, I have to call and
We should
cancel. And
just
I'm like, we can't
reschedule.
cancel. It's like
No,
it's the day. It's like the night before. We got it. Like she's expecting us, and
there's a foot of snow and
yeah,
like a good inch of ice everywhere. Portland is shut down. Like
yeah. I mean,
nothing is.
it was so bad that there were like raised ruts
Yes.
in the road from where the snow had built up and then frozen solid. So, as you were kind of like on your car was like a toboggan. You're just like going down the chute. And I said, no, let's just try it.
Do
It's
it.
probably stupid in hindsight because Luke was pretty young, so
Luke
we
was
had
like, yeah,
we had our
I don't
son in the
know,
back
eight.
seat.
Yeah.
But we had a Subaru Forester. I love Subaru. But my dream would be for Subaru to sponsor an episode of
Okay,
this
Subaru is
podcast.
definitely going
Yeah.
to sponsor us. We'll just put that out there. Yeah,
I
yeah.
was confident we could make it because we had a Subaru though. So,
Yes.
uh,
I was less confident, I will say. I think I white knuckled that entire drive.
oh, I white knuckled it. I couldn't feel
Oh,
my
right.
hands for like
Oh,
4 hours after we got
don't
there. I
tell me
mean,
that
so
now.
well, I mean, it's not much of a spoiler alert. We made it alive,
We
right?
made it. We
Because we
made
wouldn't be here.
it.
But it was, what does it usually take to get to Sun River? Like,
Maybe like
drivewise.
three,
Yeah,
3.5 hours, something like
three.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it took like five and a half.
I feel like it took like 6. Yeah.
It was a lot. We were going very slow. We had one really, really close call where we
We
were
did.
actually sitting at a light
That was terrifying.
on an off ramp, and a truck came down off the freeway, coming the other direction, a pickup truck, and the guy was going way too fast. Slammed on his brakes and turned sideways and was sliding right toward us. And there was nothing we could do. I mean, the
No, we were
car,
just
like,
sitting put. Yeah.
we were just sitting there, just waiting. And that truck stopped maybe 5 feet from our car.
Yeah.
But the whole time we were just like, ah, like here it comes. And, uh, but thankfully, nobody got hurt. Good thing we brought change of clothes. We made it when we
Made it.
got there. I still remember Dion's like, "You actually
You
came?"
came? Why did you
She
come?
was
Yeah.
she was like, "What?" Like, she couldn't believe it. She was so excited to see us, but
Yeah.
she was like, "You did not need to risk your lives to come
Yeah.
here," and
These are the things we do. These are the
right.
things we do for you, darlings.
It was early on though in your writing career, so we were like, we
I don't want to burn a
can't break
bridge.
these.
No. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So we did
And
it.
it was a full house. Everybody came.
I
It
know,
was
it was crazy
standing
because
room only. Yeah.
everybody in Sun River was snowed in. They couldn't go
Yeah.
anywhere, so they just all walked down to the bookshop. It was great. It was such a great event.
And Dion and Rich always do such a great job. They have like wine and little snacks, and she always does giveaways and hypes up the next author who's coming. It's not just me,
Yeah.
like every author who they have, they just do a fantastic job. Okay, the other funny
Yeah.
story that I
Well,
have. Oh,
I
no, go
want
ahead. Yeah,
to
yeah.
no, I just want to set up the other story
Okay,
because
good. Yes, perfect.
one
This is also related to Sun
yeah.
River. Yeah.
So one of the things that because we with pandemic and everything, we kind of went away from doing this as much. But one of the things that you've always been good at with book signings is like taking it up a notch. So trying to
Yeah.
incorporate something else into it that's related to the book, and a lot of the times that includes bringing somebody else along from
Mhm.
like another business or something. And so that was the case for this visit to Sun River Books. What book was it for?
This is for the Rose City series.
Right. And so you brought a florist
I brought a florist. Yes.
from Sun River, a nearby floral shop, to
Yes.
come do a demo and everything as part of the book talk to kind of like level it up and keep the interest and everything. And so
Exactly.
take
Yeah,
it from
much
there.
like our very first launch with vintage, that's always kind of been my slant. Like
Yeah.
we've had pastry chefs come do
A lot of
signings with
chocolate.
us. Lot of
Lots of
chocolate,
chocolate.
lots of
Yeah.
chocolate,
Lots of chocolate.
coffee,
Yeah.
beer
Oh, yeah.
tasting. We did
Oh, yeah.
beer tasting at Bloomsbury that year. Remember?
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, bring the brewery. That's fine."
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So this was Darlings. You might not know this, but I wrote a very short-lived 2-book series, The Rose City Mysteries, and I think it was for Violet Tendencies, the second book. It did not go anywhere, but I looked for a florist at Sun River because I thought, oh, that's perfect. They're already there. They can come do a flower demo, and I'll talk about the book, and it'll be fun. And then at the end of the night, I'll give away some books and the florist will give away the bouquet. And then, readers will get to come home with something special. Great. So I called Dion a few days before and said, hey, I would like to invite Wild Poppy Florist to come to the signing with me.
But you didn't talk to Dion.
No,
You talked to,
that's what
yeah.
I was going to
Okay.
say.
Okay.
Dion was
Sorry.
not in that day. It was
Yeah.
one of her staff.
Yeah.
And her staff took the note. And this is the classic experience of telephone.
Game of telephone. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. The young staff member says, that sounds great. If Dion or Rich have a problem with that, I'll let you know. But otherwise, yes, that sounds great. Okay.
And you were kind of like a problem. Okay. Well,
yeah.
Maybe they were worried about allergies with the flowers. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Anything? No. Yeah. So we get to Sun River, and we have also not only brought Sky Guy, our son, along, because at this point in time he's like, I don't know, 12. And he's excited because he's going to meet up with a friend. And we also brought our dog, Dot, who was the best dog. She was part Airedale Terrier. Oh, look at Dot.
Miss her so much. I'm going to get all teary now.
I know. It's the worst. Part Airedale Terrier, part Bernese Mountain Dog. Just the best dog. The Takai needs a minute. So sad. We lost her a few years ago. But she loved the outdoors. And Sun River's just perfect, right? She was fantastic with kids. She was fantastic with people. A nightmare with other dogs. Like we tried training. We got kicked out of training classes.
No joke. We got kicked out. We were asked to leave the class, refunded our money, and just told to take our beast and go. Yeah. She was the most adorable, lovable dog, but she just wanted to eat any other dog. Literally eat them. Like just, yeah.
Yeah, it was the terrier in her. But okay, so we show up with Dot, we leave her at the cabin, and we walk over to the bookstore. And Dion greets us at the door, and she's like, "Where's your dog?"
We were like, "What? How did you know we brought our dog?"
How'd you know?
Like,
what?
Yeah.
We have
we're totally confused.
And we're like, at the cabin, and she's like, "Well, where, like, aren't you bringing, like, go bring her?" I don't even think she said, "Aren't you bringing her?" But it's like, "Go get her."
Yeah. And I was like, I don't, like, she's 100 pounds. First of all, she's a big dog. Like, she was not overweight. She was 100 pounds of pure muscle and big shaggy. She had like a 3-foot long tail that was just like a baseball bat when she was wagging it. It just sweep everything off tables and stuff. And I was like, I really don't want to bring her in the store, so I'm looking at you going, figure this out, because I don't want to go get Dot. Like,
go get her? Like, what? So then we kind of move over, because the front of the store is like the checkout and cash register area and like bookshelves. And then the side of the store is where they have space to set up the chairs and the wine and everything. And we walk over that way, or I do. I don't remember if you came with me for that part. And there's
did.
There's a nice audience, because Dion always did a great job of bringing readers out. But in the front row, there's a young girl who's like 4.
Clearly there with her grandmother. Yeah, it was definitely a granddaughter. And I was like, this is weird. In the front row.
Front row, yeah. I don't usually have a lot of kids who are super excited. I mean, I get young readers every once in a while, but not a 4-year-old. And her grandmother was like, she is so excited.
Yeah.
She's so excited about this. And I'm like,
we were like, what? Wow. Okay. So you've been reading the books to her? Like, what's going on here?
I am missing this. And then, it's getting closer, and Wild Poppy Florist has not shown up yet.
Right.
But I'm kind of chatting with people, and Dion is still pretty insistent that you need to go get Dot. And we're both kind of like, I don't think that's a good idea. And then finally she says, look, when I sent out the email to my readers in the newsletter about this event, I promised them that you were bringing a wild puppy. I promised them a wild puppy.
Suddenly it all made sense.
Where's the puppy? You can't script this.
Oh, we laughed so
Oh
hard.
my
Oh,
gosh.
yeah.
Wild poppy flowers. Who did show up? We never brought Dot. The little girl was bored out of her ever loving mind.
Yeah. I did go and get Dot
At the end.
when you
Yeah.
were wrapping up so that the
Yes.
girl could meet her, and she did meet her outside. I did not bring Dot into the bookstore. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. Wild
It's
puppy, wild poppy. Mm,
so close yet so far. Lost in
yeah.
translation. Yeah.
Dion was not happy with the woman who worked for her that took that phone message.
No, I know. Then I felt terrible. I was like, I'm a florist? Like, is that still okay? Oh,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
It all worked out. It was a great event, but everyone laughed. I mean, everyone who came, that was a great
Yeah.
laugh for the night.
Except
Yeah.
the little girl.
Except the little girl who was like, why did you bring me to this event? And
Yeah.
yeah. A lot of our early travels took us all up and down the coast too. We went to lots
Oh, yeah.
of beach bookshops. So we had Lucy's in Astoria and
Yeah.
Bob's and what else?
Beach books.
Beach books, Canon Beach Books. That's a mouthful.
Mhm.
Beach books. And all of them, again, just so supportive. Astoria with Lucy's was always so fun because your dad and sister lived there. So every time we would visit, it would be like your entire family would come show up and support me.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
And then Beach Books, they did the same thing because they had they still do have a cafe attached. So we did a whole basically like literary lunch. And then the beautiful thing is a lot of these bookstores you can order from, and Beach Books is so great at giving book recommendations. I feel like they've become your personal like go-to
Spend a
recs for me.
lot of money there around the holidays. A lot of money
Yeah.
with beach books. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And what's the little special touch that they do?
Well, so independent bookshops get trade magazines all the time for, to advertising. Like Ingram, like a big book distributor, will send out a giant magazine that will have like ads basically for all the books, the upcoming books and everything. And so Beach Books reuses all of these magazines, and they wrap all of the books that they ship out. And when I say wrap, I am like, if they don't, they should have YouTube videos on how to wrap,
They
because
should. I would
my
just watch
God,
that.
they
Yeah.
are perfect every time.
Beautiful.
But there is kind of a funny story about it too, because
Yes. They always write little notes.
they write little
right?
notes like, thank you, like, appreciate you, and like, enjoy this one, or tucked in a little something extra, or whatever. It's just like, it's so great. It's like getting a box full of presents. However, if you're ordering 4 presents and you have multiple people you're ordering for, and you buy like 5 or 6 hardcover books, they all come wrapped. And so it's kind of made a fun game around the holidays for us, because I'll get like 4 or 5 for you, and then a couple for our son. And I'm kind of like, okay, well, you both need to
You'll
open
feel it.
these at the same time.
Yeah.
And, Luke could open one and go, oh, I get kind of a weird look. And I'm like, oh, here, give me that. This is for your mom. Like, just like, and you'd inevitably get a Star Wars book for sure. Because you just don't know. Like, they're wrapped. And the wrapping is, again, it is absolutely perfect. It looks so cool when it's wrapped in, they're books wrapped in pages
Book
about
paper.
books.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of fun. But when you order like 5 or 6 hardcover books, they're all about the same size, and you have no idea which is which.
I guarantee you could just tell them to put a little note on it.
I
But I
could,
don't think
totally.
you won't do it because it's
No,
such a fun game now.
it's fun. That's exactly why I haven't, because it's ended up being such a cool game of like, okay, who's gonna get what? And like, yeah, but I mean, it's just little touches like that really, make bookshops stand out for sure.
Yes. And I use them as inspiration for my new secret bookcase mysteries because I'm having them do like special wraps in that because it's just so cool.
Yeah.
So
Plus, if you're not great at wrapping,
yeah,
it's done.
Done.
your gift
Birthday,
is it's ready to
holiday.
go. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
you're set. We were just in Leavenworth,
Yeah, yeah. I love that
and
place.
I love that place too.
So amazing.
Um, a Book for All Seasons, which is the local independent bookstore there. And again, just incredible shop, incredible
Yeah,
people. They have put Sloan on the map because of their like dedication to the series. Like there's always an entire half of a bookshelf that is dedicated to Sloan. Like it's incredible.
yeah. Actually, I will always remember this. We were out there for the first time for Death on Tap,
Yeah.
and the first book in the Sloane Krause series. And you were doing, you had done your book talk and done the signing and everything, and you were just you were talking to a few people, and I was just kind of standing back, looking at all the amazing things they have in their shop because I just get lost in there too. And I kind of glanced over, and they've got this wall of books, and it the like the books are perfectly spaced, and there's one copy of each book. And I look up, and they've got this really cool neon sign, and it says PNW Bestsellers at so Pacific Northwest for those who don't know. And I look at the top row, and like number 3 is Death on Tap, and I was like, "What?" And that was the first time that you were like, "Whoa, cool!" We didn't even know that was a thing, and there it was. And so that was really cool that they again, just a fun, super creative display of like, this is not New York Times, this is the Pacific
Right.
Northwest, so this is local. This is like, and it makes sense given that your book is set in Leavenworth, but that was really cool to see. And
That was amazing.
we would have never known if it wasn't
No.
for a book for all seasons.
No, and again, going back to like what we've learned, not only things about the publishing industry, but someplace like Leavenworth, every bookseller who I've ever interacted with at a Book for All Seasons, and then including Donica, the owner, have given me so many insider tips about the
Hmm.
village. Like,
Yeah.
no, you should take a note, Ellie, because if I'm like walking across the street to go talk to some other business owner and I see a tourist, I will always stop and ask if they want me to take their picture. I was like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. That goes in a book. So even just having those kind of resources at a local level, or people that then over the years who I will email and go, okay, I'm thinking about this. Does this feel right? Like it's such an incredible resource if you're writing about a place that you're not actually living in.
Yeah, definitely. And that has been true for every bookshop, whether
Yeah.
it's Vancouver or Cannon Beach or Hood River or Sun River.
Oklahoma,
Yeah,
Georgia.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's just like
exactly.
they know their communities, and so it's been really that is like you can see that has bled into the settings of a lot of your books for sure.
Yeah. And made them so much more authentic and real because I'm actually, I mean, obviously
Yeah.
there's a murder sometimes, but
People
aside
die,
from
which
that,
for most of
exactly.
these small towns is pretty rare, believe it or not.
Yeah.
It's pretty rare.
We talked a little bit about then, obviously like our own travel to a lot of these places. There are times then when my publishing house will get involved. And that happened early on in
Yeah.
the Sloan series with Murder by the Book in Houston. And that all comes from somebody like John, who is one of their booksellers who will reach out
Love John.
to,
Yeah.
I know he's the best. Again, somebody else for whom like I'm always like I need book recs. So many recs that I've gotten for you and Luke from him too. Um, but he'll reach out, or any bookseller from some of these bigger mystery shops in particular will reach out to the publishing house and say, hey, we'd love to have Ellie come. And then sometimes if that happens, the publishing house will actually offer to pay for like a flight and one night at a hotel to get me there, which is always great because, it, can we drive a few hundred miles in our Subaru? Like, for sure, but it would get really expensive to fly all over the country, right? Although now, whenever we're doing any sort of personal travel, we just try to make sure, like, oh, can we tack on an independent bookstore while we're
Right.
visiting wherever we're at?
Well, we always have a box of books because interesting fact about Murder by the Book. I actually went to that bookstore years before you
Yes.
did.
Yeah. I was hoping you would tell this story. Yeah. Okay. So this is
So
before I didn't even, you just had
this was
ARC.
Scene of the Climb,
This was
an
Scene of the
arc of
Climb,
Scene
and
of
the
the
book
Climb.
wasn't out yet.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was so your first cozy, and
Yep.
I was working for the ad agency at the time, and my job had I traveled a lot to various parts of the country to meet with clients, and I had to go to Houston, and you were like, "Hey, when you're down there, there's this really big bookstore. Can you go by and take this arc by?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I went in and took an Uber out there, and I was like, hey, well, first of all, I walk in and I'm like, it's a big store. Like one of the bigger independent stores, I would say, in
Sure.
terms of like physical footprint. And I went in and I was like, I was nervous because we were still very new to this whole thing. And like, again, book hadn't even come out yet. And I didn't know much about the publishing industry at the time. So I had this arc, and I remember before I left, I was asking you, like, are you sure? Like, are
Yeah.
you sure if I walk in there, are they going to be, this is a crazy person? No, get out of here. Like, what are you
What are you doing?
doing? Yeah.
Well, and for any darlings who don't know, an ARC is an advanced reader copy.
Yeah.
And so pre-COVID, the publishing houses used to print physical copies. They don't so much anymore. Maybe with a brand new series, sometimes they will. But they come unbound. They're also called galleys with just like a basic light blue cover with a title, and they're still uncorrected proofs. But it's a way
Right.
to get excitement early on. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I walked in and I got about halfway through my opening sentence about my wife as an author and Kensington, and I said the word Kensington, and the woman, I don't remember who I was talking to at the time, but she was like, "Oh, Kensington, oh great," and she took it and she's like, "Oh, this is so wonderful," and I was like, "It is? Oh yeah, yeah, it is, it
Oh,
is."
yeah.
Like, yeah, okay. And she's like,
About to
"Oh
hang out.
well, um, you know, Joanne Fluke is going to be here later with her people from Kensington. If you want to stay around, I'm more than happy to give you a ticket." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay." I was flying out later anyway, but I was just like, and that again before your first book came out, so I was like, Joanne Fluke with her people from
Yeah.
the,
She's got
the publisher. I was like,
yeah.
wow,
Whoa. Yeah.
this is what it's going to be like. And yeah, then
Yeah.
the whole world changed, but whatever.
Whatever happened. It's okay. It's all good. We found our people. We found the best book
That's
people
right.
anyway.
That's right. But I just like, I can't remember who it was at the woman at Murder by the Book that I spoke to, but I will always remember that she was very kind and very like, because I was super nervous.
Yeah.
I didn't want to screw anything up for you, and then I wasn't really sure if like, am I giving her something that she knows about, like,
Or doesn't
and
want.
yeah, she was
Yeah.
just super supportive, and just it was great, super cool.
Which seems to sort of be the theme most of the time with all
Yeah,
of the people that
most
we've
of the
met.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we've had a few. I do want to tell a story about that, but first, the other place I have to talk about now that we're living in California, I was so nervous about leaving Ashland. We had our
Mm.
just like sweet community. We knew everybody. Like you literally walk down the street and everybody pretty much knows your name. Maybe sometimes for better or for worse. I don't know. Um, and we're moving to like the Bay Area, California, Sunnyvale, like big tech, right? And I was lamenting to you, crying a lot in the early weeks of making this decision to move. I'm like, how am I going to meet my people? What am I going to do?
Yeah, we don't
Um,
even use paper here, so it's like, right. I mean, that's like that's kind of where you were going
yeah.
with that when
We're
before
never
we
going to see
moved. It
another
was like,
tree again.
yeah,
Like, oh my gosh, so
exactly.
many
Yeah.
misconceptions. But
Oh yeah.
one of the very first things that I did was figure out like where is my local independent bookstore, and that's Lee's bookstore and on Murphy Avenue. And I went in and I was like, hey, I'm new to town. Do you happen to have any book clubs? Like, and that week they were starting their very first. Lee was starting her very first literary lunch, so for the first year I was here, I would go every Friday or once a month on Friday. And we would have lunch, and I met so many great people. And of course, like Lee and that whole book club have become our friends in our community down here, and such an important third space. And so Lee and I were chatting about third spaces, and she's really wanting to make the bookstore even more than that. And I said, well, I've been wanting to do a mystery book club. Like maybe we could do like mysteries and mocktails. So we started this book club that's just been such a gift. So once a month on Thursdays, we have a whole group, and I make a special mocktail that goes with the book. And we chat about the book, and it's just so
and now
fun.
you even have readers showing up because they've learned that you have a book club here
That's
in Sunnyvale.
true.
So
Yes,
yeah,
which is so fun. I know.
yeah,
I know. We're not reading my books. It's not that kind of book
right,
club.
right,
I'm picking books that I want to read, and then we're reading those. But yeah.
right.
Uh-huh. Yeah, okay, so there have been a few misses over the years. We won't name any names, but I would say this tends to happen when there are like bigger events at bookstores. So we were at a bookstore. I won't even say where. Well, I was at an event. And
An
I can't remember.
unrelated event.
Yeah, we were going up that way for Sky Guy, right? Or was that March Madness?
It was March Madness.
It was March Madness. Okay. So we were going to March Madness basketball games because our Ducks were in it. Go Ducks. And
For
there
a
was
little
a book.
while.
What's that?
They were in it for a little while.
They were in it for a little while. They
No,
were.
actually, I think they made the Final Four that year.
I was going to
So,
say, wasn't that the Final
yeah,
Four year? Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
If somebody really wants to be a sleuth, you can figure this all out with
yeah,
these
yeah,
clues that we're dropping.
totally.
So I can't remember what the event was happening at the bookstore. It might have been Independent
I
Bookstore Day, but I don't think
I
that
think it
math lines
was
up.
like Small Business Saturday or
So
something.
okay, yeah,
No. That's not in March, is it?
I know.
That's after. No. Yeah,
I don't
I don't
know.
know
It
what it
probably
was.
doesn't matter, but maybe it was because I feel like Independent Bookstore Day moved a few years ago.
Okay,
It's irrelevant though.
it doesn't
There was
matter.
something like that happening, and I reached out to the
Yeah.
store and I was like, "Hey, we're going to be in town for March Madness. I'd love to come by." And they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Yes." So there were other authors in the store that day because it was a full event, and it's a
It was a
very
whole
big
thing.
and beautiful
Yeah.
bookstore. The bookstore was great. This is no shade on the bookstore at all.
No, the
Um,
bookstore is beautiful. That is a
Fabulous.
really cool bookstore. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's one of those things where they have tables set out all throughout the space. And I was
It's a
sharing a
big
table.
bookstore too.
What's that?
It's a big bookstore too.
Yeah, like 2 stories.
Yeah.
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 I was sharing a table with someone who had recently independently published. And they if I'm doing an event like that, you would usually like make some merch for me, and I might have like some stickers and bookmarks and sign up for my newsletter. And then of course the bookstore had books so that if any reader wanted to purchase a book and have me sign it while I'm there, that's great. But normally I'm like this. I'm talking to people. I might
Hmm.
be chatting about like other book recommendations, not even my own. I'm not doing a hard sell ever. Like that is just not my personality. Well, the author for whom I was paired up with was all in. We're talking like used car salesperson. Like, what can I do to get you in this book today? This is the best book you'll ever read. Literally, like waving it in readers' faces, forcing them to come over. I'm just mortified the entire time because what? Like, this is not how this works. Like, nobody wants that.
But that's not even the worst part.
That is not even the worst part.
No.
And so, a few kind readers would sort of engage for a few minutes, and then
I think they were scared, not kind.
I was scared. I
Yeah.
was like inching,
Yeah.
I'm moving away, like, oh, how do I get out of this situation? And we were there for like, I can't remember, but it was like a 2-hour window or something where, there was a rotation of authors throughout the store. So I am stuck for 2 hours with this person. And so a handful, I
Well,
just choked because I'm so verklempt about it. A handful of readers every once in a while would stop and engage in a little conversation and then politely be like, well, yeah, I don't need the book today, but whatever. Then this author has the audacity. They had printed out business cards and would push them at people as they're coming by, and they would say, don't buy the book here. It's a lot cheaper on Amazon. Just go buy it on Amazon. Don't buy it here. Get it on Amazon the entire time for 2 hours nonstop. A bookstore has invited you. A bookstore is giving you space, and I wanted to.
Here's a pro tip for the darlings out there that are aspiring authors or new authors. If you want to build and maintain relationships with independent bookstores and their owners, don't push Amazon while you're at the bookstore. Like, it's just, that's poor form. It is really
such poor form.
Yeah.
Terrible. And I will say that when the event was over, I tattled on this author. I went up to the main bookseller and I was like, I just want to let you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's their livelihood. And if they're giving up space to somebody to advertise their books and everything, like you gotta, like, the sales need to happen through the bookshops. Like, that's just how it works.
That's how it works. No, I mean, like, readers can buy on Amazon. I have no problem with that. But if I'm doing it, and we promote my books on Amazon because lots of readers find them that way. But if I am doing an event at a bookstore and a bookstore is hosting me, I am 100% making sure that if a reader is interested in purchasing my book or really any other book in the store, that's usually my talking point. Like, please, we need, like I'm talking about with Lee's, we need third spaces. We need places where we get to go on date nights. So,
well, and actually, since we're on the subject of that, another quick tip that, hopefully people know, but if they don't, I know enough booksellers bookstore owners that I can say this with 100% confidence. If they don't have a book you're looking for, just ask them. They can probably get it sometimes even the next day, but definitely within a day or two, and they'll have it for you at the bookshop, or they could probably have it sent to you too. But just ask, because they're more than happy to order it. And, these are, in many cases, not like, they don't have a ton of shelf space. They can't have thousands and thousands of books. So they have a wide mix of some of the best-selling or more niche books that are out there. But they can order anything. They can get you any book you want to read. Yeah. And they're happy to do it. So please just ask them.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think on that note, that wraps up our theme of bookstore love. Go spread some bookstore love, darlings.
That's right. Yeah. We there are so many out there. I feel like we could do another episode of this.
We could
just to talk about. I feel like we've forgotten a few that we've.
I know we've forgotten so many.
Yeah, but that's okay.
We have talked for years about at some point in time wanting to rent an RV and do like a cross-country book tour. That would be amazing. Somebody just did that. Who did that? An author.
We saw that. She had an Airstream trailer.
Was it Brenda Heeldat? I can't remember.
I can't remember. This is such a cool idea, though. So we will borrow that and then put our own spin on it.
Maybe one day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But in the meantime...
Vacation.
Yeah, right?
Working vacation.
What we do.
Yeah.
In the meantime, go check out your local indie bookstore.
Right. That's right. So until next time.
Until next time.